Hello, this is the Truth Seeker. This is part 21 of my series, Judaism Influenced Zoroastrianism. In this series, I'm going to talk about the Jewish captivity in Babylon. I'm going to talk about Persia. We're going to talk about Zoroastrianism. We're going to talk about the gods of Babylonia, the gods of Persia, and basically we're going to talk about the timeline of events, when it occurred, when the captivity occurred, when it ended, when exactly the supposed influence of Zoroastrianism is said to have occurred by most folks. So let's just start off with a basic timeline here. In about 598 BCE, the city of Judah was besieged by Babylon. At that time they were conquered, and there was a large, what we call, tribute of individuals that were taken captive and taken back to the capital of Babylon, the city of Babylon. And it was there that the Jews lived in Babylon for about 60 years, until the year 537. So what we see, though, is that in 539 BCE, the Babylonians were basically conquered by the Persians. And this is where we begin to hear about Cyrus the Great, king of Persia, comes in and peacefully allows the citizens of Babylonia to continue their lives. Aside from the fact that, he basically conquered Babylonia, his armies basically, slaughtered all of Babylon's armies. Aside from that fact, the peaceful King Cyrus comes in and he makes a proclamation. And if you saw my video in part 20, I talk about King Cyrus's proclamation and how he has basically used the name of their god, Marduk, okay, which is the high god of Babylonia at that time. So here's the problem with the claim. The claim is that while the Jews were in Babylon for those 60-some years, now correct me if I'm wrong, but this seems to be the claim, that while the Jews who were in captivity, who were in Babylon for those some 60 years, were influenced by Zoroastrianism and began to mold their religion into a similar mold in regard to, like, let's just say, monotheism, which, for one, it's very hard to show that Zoroastrianism or Zoroastric Mazdaism, however you want to term it, was monotheistic at that time. We could very well argue that it was polytheistic. But all of that really doesn't matter, because the Jews were not taken into captivity in Persia. They were taken into captivity in Babylonia. Now, if you know anything about history and geography at that time, that the very fact that the Babylons were conquered by Persia shows you that those are two different areas. In fact, if you just want to say like the general area of Iran today would be like Persia, and the general area of like Iraq would be like Babylonia. Okay? So here's the conundrum. You have Zoroastrianism, which is a Persian religion, and you have Babylonia, which has their own god. They have their own gods. In fact, all of the gods of Babylonia, they come down from the Sumerians, and they come from the Enuma Elish tablets, and so all of those gods, those are completely. Those are other gods. Those are the names of all these other gods. They have their own stories. They have their own epics, and they're completely separate from the Zoroastrian gods. And so here's the problem here, folks. The Jews were not held in captivity under Persia. They were held in captivity under Babylonia. And Babylonia was clearly polytheistic. They were clearly polytheistic. In fact, the very fact that we know that the Cyrus cylinder was a fake translation, that Cyrus, number one, never even really mentioned the god Ahura Mazda in it. In fact, he mentions the god Marduk. He does that. It very well could be that he does that for political reasons, because he wants to come into Babylonia and make the people feel at ease, and so he's attributing these things to their god Marduk. And so, boy, either way you slice this, historically, however you want to look at it, it really just points to the fact that Marduk and all these other Babylonian gods were the major gods of that region of Babylonia at that time, and that the exposure to the Persian gods at that time was probably non-existent or very little. Seeing as how the Babylonians were enemies, as it seems, to Persia. So what we have here is a time period of about 60 years in which the Jews were in Babylon. And, as evidence to that, I mean, you can look in like Jeremiah, in the Bible, in like Jeremiah chapter 52, I believe. And what we see is a reference to the god Marduk. Let me just pull that up here. Okay, Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 2, which says, "Announce and proclaim among the nations, lift up a banner and proclaim it. Keep nothing back, but say, Babylon will be captured. Bel will be put to shame. Marduk filled with terror." So basically, Bel, that's another name for Marduk, because Bel is always in the symbol of a dragon. And so Marduk and Bel, that's synonymous. It's like a Hebrew doublet here in the verse. Bel will be put to shame. Marduk will be filled with terror. How much more evidence do you want to see that that the Jews were under Babylonia at that time, and that they were in subjection to Babylonian religion, Babylonian gods and goddesses, that they were captured by a polytheistic society. Okay, it was only in 539 BCE when King Cyrus comes in. He captures Babylonia, and he says, basically, it was at that time that 2 years later, we're looking at 2 years later, the Jews began to build their city and their temple back in Jerusalem. They wasted no time in leaving Babylonia as soon as King Cyrus enters. And so I ask you, how much influence could Persia have at that time upon the Jews in reference to them becoming a monotheistic religion? And so this is the basic message I'm giving you today. I could get into some more. I was just looking here at some maps. If you want to look up some maps from 640 BCE to 500 BCE, you could see, the Persia, the Persian Gulf, and then Babylonia. They're two countries. They're set apart from each other. They practically have an ocean between them, the Persian Gulf, almost. But you're looking at Susa in between there, and then above that, Media. And what the claim, it always comes back is, that when the Jews were taken into captivity, that they were influenced by Zoroastrianism. What kind of a historical statement is that? I mean, it's very obvious, just from looking at the timeline, that they were under Babylonian control, that they were under Babylonian subjection. So, you know what? Just study these things for yourself, and you will see that. So, I just want to say to everybody, keep seeking truth. God bless you all, and I look forward to my next video.